Welcome to the first horror review Sunday of 2021, and what better movie to start with than the goriest film ever made, more than likely. This film comes to us from Peter Jackson himself, who made the Lord of the Rings movies. Now, confession, I've never seen those movies because I'm just not into that genre, I guess. I've just never been interested. So maybe I'll check them out someday. But as of now, as of this recording, I have not seen that trilogy or whatever it is by now. How many movies did they make? Three, and then like three Hobbit films. Haven't seen them, but I am familiar with some of his other work, like The Frighteners, which is an excellent movie. Check that out. I reviewed that one as well. It's got Jeffrey Combs, Michael J. Fox. Fantastic film. You know, the biggest negative about this movie is the fact that there still is not, to this day, a official Blu-ray release for it, or even like a DVD. Like, it's rare. I don't even think it exists. I mean, every time I go on Amazon, it's not there. I don't think there's a Blu-ray at all. I think there's only like a VHS, maybe there's a bootleg copy out there, but the only reason why I was able to watch this movie is because somebody posted it on YouTube. And fair warning, if you want to go check it out, there are 3 or 4 moments within this upload, this video that was uploaded, where the audio completely cuts out for like a minute each time. So you'll miss some dialogue here and there, which was a shame. But luckily, it was only up to a minute, and it happened like 3 or 4 times. So it wasn't that bad. Yeah, that's the biggest negative. It's like, why the fuck is there not a HD 1080p Blu-ray out there of this movie? Why? Is there legal reasons? What's going on? Why isn't this officially released on Blu-ray? Makes no sense to me. But really, there's no real critiques I have about the film. There wasn't anything I really hated or bummed me out. I just had a little bit of a hard time understanding this main actress who plays Paquita. She's like a Latin girl. Sometimes it was hard to understand what she was saying because she had like a really thick accent. But that's just a nitpick. That's not really a criticism. Now, I do have some mixed thoughts on this film, and that is the humor, really. There were a lot of gags that really made me laugh. I love the over-the-top gore, violence in the film. I thought the violence was funny enough. You didn't need all the cartoonish stuff. This movie gets very zany and just very over the top with a lot of things. A lot of cartoonish stuff, like the preacher doing kung fu and stuff like that. It was a little too much for me. It was just like a little too slapsticky. It wasn't really my type of comedy that I like. I like things to be a little bit more clever and creative and not just so like I'm watching a cartoon. This one, it was just a little too much. Like, I can't explain it. Like, TerraVision worked for me, but for some reason this one was just a little too much in some areas for me. Can't explain it, but it wasn't terrible or anything, but I kind of shook my head a couple of times. Like, that's not that funny. Like, some jokes they would just do too much. Like the whole kung fu thing, like they took that sequence and they just dragged it out for me. Like, it was just like, okay, we get it. He's punching him. It's funny. He just keeps punching him and punching and punching. The sound effects and everything. Like, it's a cartoon. I just feel like they overdid some things. But the rest is just positives. I really enjoyed the film. And I really like this title card. We don't get title cards like that anymore. It's like a dead art. We don't get those classic like 70s and 80s title cards where like the tile pops up and it starts to like bleed and shit. Whatever happened to that stuff? So right away I was like, awesome, great movie. And of course, I think the biggest thing that I can praise about this movie is just all the effects in it. How it's all practical. You even get like claymation at one point, which they don't use too much, thankfully, because I'm not too huge on claymation effects, but all the practicals were great. It was very creative, very over the top, lots of blood and gore, like buckets and buckets of blood. I read that they used a ridiculous amount. They had like just cannon just shooting like 3 gallons per second. Just lots of blood in this film. The lawnmower scene, limbs everywhere. There's internal organs coming to life and attacking people, strangling them. Like, it's just a freaking mountain of body parts at the end of this movie. Just so many limbs everywhere. So it's just really all the gore and the creativeness of it and the relentless third act. That's the biggest takeaway from the film. That's what everyone is watching this movie for, is all the practicals, the gore, and that relentless, just insane third act that I really want just to get to and talk about in my spoiler discussion. So yeah, let's get to that. All right, let's just end this spoiler-free section right now. Final thoughts. If you have not seen this movie, check it out on YouTube right now before it's too late and somebody takes it down for some reason. It's there right now as of this recording. Check it out. I highly recommend it if you are a huge fan of splatter films, like an Evil Dead movie. This is like Evil Dead dialed to 11. This is even more bloody than those films. This is hands down one of the goriest films ever made. It's very funny, but a little slapsticky and just a blast. So when it comes to Dead Alive, or AKA Braindead, highly recommend that you go out and buy it if you can. Alright, now let's really talk about this movie and all the crazy shit that ensues. So this whole movie takes place in 1957, and they do a pretty good job of making it look like it's 1957 with all the outfits and hairdos, and except for the one guy's hair, the uncle, he looks like he just came from Whoville in The Grinch or some shit. He looked like the mayor. Like, his hair was just fucking weird. But it's Skull Island, so a little wink to King Kong right there. And another wink to, like, Indiana Jones. Like, when he's, like, running to the Jeep with the stolen monkey, he's like, start the engine or something. It reminded me of Indiana Jones. Which one's that called? Raiders of the Lost Ark. So, but he gets bit by this monkey, and they quickly just start amputating every limb. They chop off his hand and his arm, his other arm, and then they notice a little scratch on his forehead. They're like, oh, we gotta take the head off, and they cut his head off. So, and then we meet this guy and his mom. We got like a little bit of a Norman Bates and his mom relationship going on here, where the mom's very obsessive, like just wants the kid's attention, like, you can only love me, son, you can't fall in love, just love me. Very selfish bitch. And she's complaining about the house being dirty, but once you get to the third act, you're like, oh, you're complaining now like it's dusty and dirty? Wait till you get to the third act. You're gonna need like a mop. A bloodbath. So then she's like stalking her son while he's on a date at the zoo. And of course, she gets bit by the monkey that has this. It's not really a monkey, it's like a rat monkey or something. It had a name, I didn't write it down. But she gets bit, and then instead of just running off screaming, she turns around and like stomps this rat monkey's head in and just like lingers on, like just keeps her foot on the head, and the eyeballs are like popping out of the skull. Like, that's the gore here. It's not only practical, but it lingers on screen, which I'm a huge fan of. So I love that when he's on this date, though, before that happens, he's like telling this Latin girl, Paquita, this really sad story about his dad drowning. And then her reaction to it is really no reaction at all. She just kind of, she says nothing. She says absolutely nothing, and her expression on her face is like blank, like, whatever. And then she starts smiling a couple seconds later, and it's like, oh, let's go over here, let's look over here. Like, completely not acknowledging what he just said. Like, yeah, whatever. Cool story, bro. Cool story. Let's go check out the lions. So, then after that, yeah, the monkey bites the mom, and then they go back, and like the next morning, her face is like peeling off, and then she's like, get the glue, and they're like trying to glue the skin back onto her face. And these other people come by, they're like eating custard, and her wound is like pulsing, and then like pus comes out of it, lands in the guy's custard. The wife sees this happening and doesn't say a word about it. The guy starts eating the bloody pus. Yeah, and then like her ear falls off into her own like custard as well, and she starts eating her own earlobe. Ugh, God, this movie is gross. And probably the funniest moment in the movie for me is when the dog goes up there. I'm not sure what dog it was. I can't remember. It was like a German Shepherd. It was like a big dog. I don't know my breeds that well, but this giant dog goes up there, and then she somehow swallows this thing like whole, almost. Like, she gets a lot of it in her, and then she's like, your mom swallowed my dog. And then he's like holding like the remains of the dog. He's like, well, not all of it. And the camera like pans over, and there's like all these dog innards on the bed. Technically, she didn't eat all of it. And then the nurse gets killed. And this moment kind of reminded me of like The Thing. Towards the end, like her fingers were going like inside the chick's cheek, kind of like that one character, I forget his name in The Thing, where uh, shit, I forget the names, whatever. But he like sticks his hand in the skin of the face. It kind of reminded me of that. But then like her head gets peeled, like pushed back so hard that her neck breaks open, and then she's just walking around the rest of the movie with her head like hanging back, and we get like awesome like upside down POV shots. And then like later on when she's eating, it's like all the food's going out the neck hole and stuff, and he's like putting the food down the neck hole and everything. Oh my gosh. Like that stuff's funny to me. That's not too like that's not slapsticky or anything. So that's comedy that works for me. And so for some reason at the funeral they're like embalming the body. They're putting embalming fluid in the corpse like right before the wake. I'm sure you would do that way before. But they like overdo it so the body's like imploding with so much embalming fluid, like it's just like shooting out her eyes. And then this like gang of punks goes to the grave later on, and they start like pissing on her grave, literally. Then the pastor comes out, and he's like, "I kick ass for the Lord," and then he starts doing flips. He's Busta Rhymes and Halloween Resurrection. He's kicking ass and taking names, literally kicking people's heads off and their limbs off. So it's like he's got superhuman strength, or these zombies, once they turn, they just become weak. Like their bones are they're fragile, and they're easily, they can break apart easily and shit. Like he's kicking their legs off of one swoop, and then they like throw his ass, and he lands on, you know, this angel hand, and it goes right through his chest, and then like that turns him into a zombie. Oh wait, he got bit. Never mind. So yeah. Um, so yeah, then like he has like a whole family table of zombies that he's keeping. He's just feeding them all. It's like his new family. He, for some reason, wants to take care of them still. Like, I guess he's trying to protect the public. He can't just let them go, I guess, right? But they don't attack him. It doesn't make sense. Like, I could buy why the mom's not attacking him. If she retains some of her personality in there. When she's turned, she kind of like Return of the Living Dead 3, how, Julie wouldn't attack her boyfriend because even though she was a zombie, she still remembered that she loved him. So I could see why the mom wasn't attacking this main character, Lionel, but why wasn't the punk attacking him? Why wasn't the preacher attacking him? The nurse, like, I don't know. It's just silly. Like, leave logic at the door, because there is no logic in this film. We had that one punk, I didn't even talk about it, like when the zombie like grabs his dick and like pulls him to the dirt, and then like all this blood is like spraying out, and like his whole like skin on his chest is missing. You see his chest cavity. Awesome stuff. So then the pastor in the basement starts fucking the nurse. These zombies give birth the next day. Like they went through 3 trimesters overnight, like it's Seed of Chucky all of a sudden. And and then for some reason he just takes the baby to the park. Why would you, like, I get it, it's for a joke, but why would he do that? He is risking other kids' lives and other parents. Like, this kid he knows is dangerous, and he's gonna take this kid to a children's park and then like potentially risk the lives of other kids. You're being stupid. And then he starts beating the shit out of this little freaking infant baby, and everybody around him sees this happening and they think it's an infant, but their reactions tell me otherwise. Like, their reactions look like he's beating the shit out of the fake baby. Because if they really thought that he was, slamming a infant baby's head up against a swing set and then throwing the baby on the ground, stomping the baby, pushing the fucking stroller down a giant hill, there would be chaos, and they would be screaming. They would try to help. They wouldn't just sit there. So do they think that's a real baby or not? Because their reactions don't make sense to me. Like, they're kind of like shocked, like, but it would be a lot more than that. They would be screaming like, this guy's killing an infant here. Like, he's throwing that thing around. One of the better scenes in the movie. Awesome. So then after all that, this guy gets his rib cage pulled out. Like, this is when the party starts. Like, we get the whole blackmail thing, and then he like invites all his douche friends over, and there's just this big party, and then chaos ensues. The zombies get out. They rip this guy's rib cage right out of his chest, there were so many things happening. I had like keep pausing the movie, like, oh my gosh, this happened and this happened. Like, there's so many gore effects here. Like, a woman gets a hole punched right through her fucking face, like out through the back of her head, out her mouth as she's screaming, and this other guy gets pulled through like this hole in the wall, and then his legs are chewed down to the bone, and he just has like boots left down there. That's it. And then this other guy gets ripped in half also, and then he's like walking on his fist instead, and his legs go running and chase someone else. His innards, each of them have, the ability to walk. Like, his organs are all alive. They're all like separate people. The intestines are like chasing the main guy. The liver and lungs are just all crawling around and shit. Oh my gosh. So, and then this guy gets his face ripped off, just his skin. Pretty cool effect there. And there's so much blood that this guy can't even run away. Like, he's running, but he's running in place like a cartoon. Like a Scooby-Doo cartoon where they're running so fast, their legs are like spinning for a couple of seconds and then they dart off. But in this one, he can't, he's on a blood treadmill. That's what it is, really. Like, it's like a blood treadmill. Like, he's running, but he's not gaining any ground. He's in the same spot, but then he has to like run on top of like dead body parts to finally like gain some traction and like get to where he wants to go. So many body parts. And then even the anus was alive too. The guy's innards, you see like an anus, and of course it farts. Of course. Who didn't see that coming? And this guy gets his head decapitated with like the garden shears. Like, this uncle, despite being a piece of shit, blackmailing his own nephew, he's a badass when it comes to like defending himself and knowing how to use, cutlery. Like, he's taking a meat cleaver to people. He's got cropsy shears, and he's decapitating people from the mouth up. And then that top half of the head is like crawling around as well. He sticks like a garden gnome statue inside the neck hole of that guy. Oh my god, it's just insane. This movie it's batshit crazy. It's absolutely bonkers. And then we get, of course, the predator kill. He goes in the basement, and this giant hand like rips his head off, and it's like a predator kill. You see the silhouette of his spine, and then you see his body later on. He's walking around still with like his spine and head, like it's like a giraffe neck. It kind of reminded me of Santos and Return of the Living Dead 3. And my gosh. And then we get the giant mom. But before that, we get the lawnmower scene. Cool. Like, he comes in. They kind of like foreshadow this later. I mean, earlier in the movie, where they show the lawnmower, he's like working on it and stuff. Like, this is going to come back later. He gets the lawnmower and starts mowing them all. Just buckets of blood going everywhere. Limbs flying all about. It's absolutely insane. And then we get like the blender scene. They're trying to throw the baby in the blender, but it keeps like escaping it. She just punches the baby out the window. And sticks the half head in the blender, blenders it, and then she takes the spine of the uncle and it throws his head onto the kitchen counter, and his head explodes like a melon. It's like, where does she get this strength? Again, maybe it's just the body is weakened when you're a zombie for some reason. Everybody's just exploding very easily, and yeah, it's crazy. So, and then the baby is inside that woman's body, like, goes up through her throat, and then the hands come out the side of the neck, and then reaches around and like peels her face open to reveal the baby underneath, and it's like laughing and shit. Awesome. Absolutely great. Just fantastic gore right there. And then we get the giant mom that comes out of the ground. I don't know why she got so big. What the hell did he put in her body? Like, he buried them after he like poisoned them or something. He got like poison from some German Nazi doctor who's like wearing Nazi symbols on his arm, I think, or something. I don't know. Like, there's just a Nazi doctor in the movie too. But yeah, he put poison in their body, and then it just made her bigger or something. Maybe I missed something, but yeah, she's like huge, absolutely huge. It's like the mega clown at the end of like, Killer Clowns. It's like that big. It's a good thing this house is a mansion. Otherwise, she would have broke through the roof. If it was like an apartment building, forget about it. That place would have fallen down. I love how, like, despite how huge she is, she must weigh like 3 ton or some shit. Like, she would have to weigh a lot. Like, she's huge. Like, fucking, like, 100 feet tall. She's on the roof. That roof would have collapsed with her weight on it, I would assume. I don't know. I mean, everybody else is so easily breakable. I would assume that the roof is easily breakable too in this universe, right? And yeah, he falls inside the mom's belly, like goes back in her womb. She's like, "Come back to mommy, you're my boy." And then he like punches his way out with this like amulet thing he got, and then all these innards and buckets of blood come pouring out of his stomach, and he's like officially rebirthed, a new man in love with this Latin girl. He's gonna start a new life. Fuck you, mommy. So yeah, that's really the end of the movie. He just kills his mom that way. And the Hockey Mask Award for Best Character in this movie, for me, was the baby. That fucking baby is ugly, disgusting, but also kind of adorable in a weird way. And the Hanky Award for Worst Character is that douchebag jock who just keeps talking about football when he's on a date with Paquita. What a self-loving jerk. And the Clapper Award for Best Scene in this movie is the lawnmower scene. It's absolutely gratuitous with the gore, the violence is over the top, and it's very memorable. And the Funny Bone Award for Funniest Moment in this scene is when the dog gets eaten by the grandma, and she's like, "You ate my dog!" Not all of it. And those are my thoughts on Dead Alive. What are your thoughts on this Peter Jackson classic that needs a Blu-ray release desperately? Put all your thoughts on this film in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.